Well, I've been getting a lot of questions about taking action. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why. If you want to manifest a better life, better relationships, a better financial situation, better health, you have to take action. A lot of you are not going to want to hear this, but those of you who are serious about applying and integrating these ideas are absolutely going to want to hear this. If you don't know who I am, my name's Tim. I've written several books about this stuff. I've helped hundreds of people with this stuff. I've applied this stuff into my own life over the course of a decade plus. And I'm here to tell you guys that action is a fundamental part of being human. There's no way to avoid it. And guess what? All you law of assumption peeps out there. By the way, I've edited and written commentary on several of Neville Goddard's, teachings. I've written multiple best-selling books on that, okay? So please don't come at me saying I don't know what the law of assumption is. Frankly, go fuck yourself if you think that. Imagination is action. Imagination is action. Imagination is action. Imagination is action. Do you understand that? People are asking me, they're saying, well, I don't want to take external action. I just want to imagine. Go for it. This is the thing. You're going to fuck up doing it probably. It's hard to just sit on your ass and be lazy and imagine correctly that you have what you want, that you are going to get what you want if you don't already feel like you have it, figuratively, like Neville liked to talk about. It is hard to embody the state by just imagining something mentally and not really doing anything in the so-called 3D. It's usually far easier to think that you already feel what it's like to have something, that it's going to show up, materialize, demonstrate in your 3D life by taking appropriate action, actions that feel aligned with this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is why I've been speaking a lot recently about like entrepreneurs getting much better results in the 3D with this stuff than most folks who are, on the Neville subreddit or reading about the law of assumption. Those folks, the latter group, they don't take any fucking appropriate action. Except they do SATs. SATs is appropriate action. That's imagining correctly, right? They do that, but then they come out of it and they're fucked. Because the rest of their actions during the day are primarily saying, I still don't have this thing. While an entrepreneur who is into these manifestation ideas is much more likely to do something like SATs or a success indicator. Or I mentioned Sam Ovens, the alchemy of self, like an exercise like that. Imagine having it, already being that person, and then goes out and does what needs to be done. Takes action, goes and gets it. That's all fucking imaginative. Your action is all imaginative. So, people say, I don't want to do that. I just want to live in the end. Fine. You want to live in the fucking end? Live in the end. Do it. Today, I'm going to read to you ways of living in the end and not taking a lot of action. Guess what? Most of you, there's no fucking way you're going to be able to do it. But if you want to, you have to realize that what you're imagining is active, is action. And so you don't necessarily have to take all these big external actions. You don't necessarily have to be this entrepreneur person making the calls, meeting with people, planning stuff, running a business. Even though for many of you, that's going to be a far better way to get what you want than what I'm about to talk about. If you want to go this more esoteric route that's so popular, on Reddit or on these YouTube videos, I literally did nothing and manifested everything. But if you want to, if you listen to my podcast or fucking read some of my books, I talk about this some. It's not fucking easy to do. The people on YouTube telling you about how to do it aren't fucking doing it. At least for the most part. I'm not doing it. I'm taking action every day. I'm also doing this shit, what I'm about to read to you. I spend a lot of time meditating. I like being quote unquote lazy. I like just using my imagination and having things come to me from doing that. But I'm also taking massive action each day. Guys, I've got 2 young kids. I'm self-employed. I don't like working a ton of hours. But I'm busy the whole fucking day usually, including being busy with this, sitting on my ass intentionally, which is what I'm about to read about. It's not easy to do. Most of you watching this video have so many limiting beliefs you don't even realize you have limiting beliefs. It's like what I was talking about recently with the Dunning-Kruger effect. I'll put a link above to that video if you did not watch it. The excerpt I'm going to read is from The Mystical Eye, a book of Joel Goldsmith lectures. Here it is. Goldsmith, as I've said before, is just as brilliant and helpful a teacher in regards to using your imagination and manifesting a better life. Just as good a teacher as Neville is. At least for many of you, he will be. He might be better for many of you than Neville is. Just as provocative. He's much less popular because Neville was much more of a dramatic, kind of sensationalistic type of teacher. And he liked to kind of articulate his philosophy through these very dramatic stories, which has made him much more easily misinterpreted, in my opinion, in the years since he died. And Neville was just a dramatic dude. Goldsmith's not dramatic. But I think a lot of you, if you get into him, are going to resonate with what he's saying much more than Neville. I know I do, quite frankly, these days. I read a lot of Joel Goldsmith, contemplate a lot of what Joel Goldsmith talks about, especially in regards to meditation and, quote unquote, sitting on my butt doing nothing, which is really taking action. I find what Joel Goldsmith talks about in regards to all this stuff much more helpful than what Neville talks about these days, generally speaking. I read Goldsmith, contemplate what Goldsmith says all the time. I'll read a passage from Joel Goldsmith every day or two usually. I hardly ever read Neville anymore. Listen to what Goldsmith's talking about here in terms of action, okay? And I am, right? Because we hear all about this shit, like, I am, blah, 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 blah. I am is something that's deeper than how it's interpreted on YouTube usually. Because on YouTube, usually people use it in almost like the selfish way. Goldsmith here, he's saying, this is from the chapter, by the way, if you want to read this book, I speaks, from the Mystical Eye. He writes, I am with you means that I am with all. But 1,000 will still fall at your left and at my left, and 10,000 at our right, until they awaken to the presence of me, the presence that I am, the presence that is within them. As each individual awakens to that presence, that individual in some measure becomes free of the limitations of mortal sense, free of the limitations that would set one person apart from another, or one person's interests apart from another. Okay? That's what so much of this LOA type of stuff is getting at. And it's realizing that presence that is within all of us and realizing it right now. And you do that imaginatively, you could say, meditatively. Goldsmith says, you bring this I into tangible expression only in the degree of your conscious awareness of it. This is the big LOA thing, guys. Okay, I'm going to link to a podcast episode I did, I think last year, reading from John Randolph Price, the guy who wrote the Abundance book, who was very influenced by Goldsmith, talking about the same thing, which is, in the way these manifesting law of attraction teachings work is it's only in the degree that you become conscious of what you're doing, of the power within you, that the stuff works for you effectively, at least sustainably. Price says, I believe it's my consciousness of God as my supply is my supply. My consciousness of God as my supply is my supply. So you become conscious of God, of the good, of this inherent life-sustaining thing, ineffable thing, which, is called so many different things. It's called things like prana, the Tao, chi, like this life-sustaining force. You become conscious of it, and then you utilize it naturally. You don't just utilize it for yourself. It's not like Tim am. No, I am part of this chi, prana, Tao, whatever you want to call it, presence. And I use it for all. I recognize it in everybody. It's that kind of I amness, right? That's what Goldsmith's getting at. He says it only has power in your life to the degree of which you are conscious of it. If you are unconscious of it, it's still there. It still is sustaining you in so many ways, but you're not able to work with it unless you're conscious of it. Okay? This is the action part, okay? That's what I want you to hear. I hope some of you are listening to this. Some of you are following along. This is a quote-unquote advanced video. Again, Goldsmith wrote or said, you bring this I into tangible expression only in the degree of your conscious awareness of it. He goes on to say, there must be action. There must be conscious action, conscious recognition, okay? That's your imagination. That's what Neville calls your imagination. That's what Coué would say was your imagination. There must be action. There must be conscious action, conscious recognition. Goldsmith then quotes the Bible. He says, repent, turn yourselves, and live, yea. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Various biblical passages. Goldsmith goes on to say here, keep in mind, Goldsmith is probably the most passive teacher you're going to find. He just is meditate a lot on God. This is how Goldsmith is describing meditating on God, okay? Action, action, action. An activity of consciousness. And as your consciousness is active in truth, with truth, through truth, you will find that the truth active in your consciousness becomes the very fabric of the new life. Does that sound like doing nothing and not taking action? Joel Goldsmith, one of the more passive, if not the most passive manifesting teacher I know, someone who advocates basically just several times a day being alone and contemplating God, the presence of God. He's saying that's action. It's impossible not to take action, guys. Your imagination is action. You're just fooling yourself saying, oh, I'm not taking any action. You're always taking action. I am means action. Again, I got to read this Goldsmith passage again. This is what Goldsmith's describing in terms of meditation, in terms of, working with your imagination, basically. Action, action, action. An activity of consciousness. And as your consciousness is active in truth, with truth, through truth, you will find that the truth active in your consciousness becomes the very fabric of the new life. Again, that John Randolph Price quote. My consciousness of God as my supply is my supply. being conscious of God, of good, of what you want, of your desire. My consciousness of God, of this presence, this chi, this Tao, this thing within me, this inexpressible thing, this life-sustaining force, doing that will make it so it expresses itself, manifests, demonstrates more in your 3D. We ain't in kindergarten anymore, guys. And my neighbor is getting into their car. I'm in the garage again. I'm loving these garage videos. You are always taking video. You're always taking videos. You always are taking videos, images, self-conscious, appraisals of yourself. What you are conscious of is shaping your life, your reality right now. And that's an active process. I hope this was clear. If you need more clarity, you can schedule a free consultation with me if you want to get deep with this stuff. But I warn you, we get deep right away. We do not waste time on bullshit. If you are very willing not to waste time, you'll have a wonderful process working with me and talking to me. I'm putting a link below again to that podcast where we talked about John Randolph Price, that wonderful quote, "My consciousness of God as my supply is my supply." The more we understand that, in my opinion, the better our life will get.